What's going on, everybody? It's your boy PTK Bland back in the building with another episode of the Shop Podcast. How's everybody doing? It is another Saturday, another episode. Feeling really, really good. Just got off work, feeling amazing. Hope everybody's had a great work week, man. We are coming to you live once again with another show. Fantastic guests on this week, man. I'm really, really excited about this week because I love having new people on the show. You guys know how I feel about that. I enjoy having new people that have never been on, and we're going to go ahead and get it in. So once again, if you're brand new here to the chat, go ahead and say hello, smack that like button as you file in, subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 2K subscribers for 2019, guys. Let's do it. I know we can do it. You guys always show up and show out. So let's go ahead and dive in. We're going to start with you, Centurion. Go ahead and introduce yourself, give a little backstory on yourself, and let everybody know where they can find you, man.
Oh, I'm Centurion1307. I operate legionofgamer.com. It's a little pet project of mine just to help people want to find a more unbiased site and less toxic site for gaming information. And that's what got me into this whole thing. Was I'm an Xbox fan. I play on all consoles, but I wanted to be able to discuss games with people that really enjoyed games. So here I am.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you for taking the time out of your afternoon, of your weekend, man, to just hang with us. Once again, appreciate you. You like family now. You in the door, man. So, like I told you earlier, pregame, you never know when you can get a random tweet from me. So I appreciate you. Thanks again, man, once again. And then we're going to go ahead and move right over to my right-hand man, Fuzzy Belvedere. Before you get started, Fuzz, let me go ahead and give a quick shout-out to our other two members of the Shop Podcast, not to be forgotten. The boy Zalker 87, man. We're going to work that out as far as the schedule, man. And then Jarhead, appreciate you, bro. Love you. Appreciate both of those gentlemen. But Fuzzy, go ahead and let everybody know what's going on with you. We know you gaming. You can skip that part. We know you gaming. But everything else, everybody know what's going on with you, man.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Fuzzy Belvedere here. Been pretty busy playing some Division 2 with Sean Su in the chat. Just trying to get my other two characters up to level 30. Definitely had him help me out and got stuck as far as doing some of the strongholds. But other than that, definitely here to talk some gaming. It's been pretty interesting this week as far as some stuff that's hit the news ways. So, yeah, let's get it.
Let's get it. So let's dive in, man. Let's dive in. So let's go ahead and just get started, man. Let's get started. So first topic of the day, man. First topic of the podcast. So this is very interesting question. This is one that I've pondered for a while, and I actually don't remember who inspired this actual topic, but it was somebody put up a tweet on Twitter, and I saw it, and it was kind of the same realm of what I'm actually about to tell you guys. So the question is, do gamers ask too much of developers? And this is kind of a tricky question because both sides have a great argument, in all honesty, because as a gamer, we want games to come out. We want them to work when they come out. We ask bigger and better things every time we get a new version of a franchise or a brand new IP. We want bigger, better, louder, faster, but at the same time, there's a lot of sacrifices to that, when you got timelines. So the developers have a very good case as well. So we're going to start with you, Centurion. What is your opinion on that, man? What side are you on, essentially? But how do you think about that overall opinion? Do we ask too much of developers, or do you think as gamers, we're pretty fair?
I'm kind of on the fence about it because I do believe we need to get our money's worth for what we pay for, especially with how expensive the consoles are getting and games are getting. And God, we're also paying out the butt for internet. But at the same time, when you see a developer put out, hey, we're making a game, you start seeing people literally giving them a Christmas list of what the game should have, what it needs to have. And it's like almost like a list of demands, or it's like a ransom list. I've seen it like where they demand 60 frames a second. And, on today's platforms, that's actually a hard benchmark to hit on some titles. So, yeah, I do believe the demands have to be there. Like, obviously, we'll use, sadly, Anthem as an example. The product that was shown at E3 was not the product that we got. Definitely, that is a very good example of, basically they didn't give us what they were basically advertising.
Okay, so would you agree as well that the developers do have a strong case? Because once again, not only we seeing it, once again, we're going to circle back around to Anthem. I hate to do it to Anthem. I know it's getting kicked in the ass right now, but it's the best example that I have at this particular point. So we see the developers, on live streams and in tweets and all these little subliminals about deadlines and timelines and all of that stuff that goes on behind scenes that we as the consumer don't really get to see, in really any detail. We get tidbits here and there every time a developer is angry or upset, But otherwise, would you agree that that has to play a part in it? Whereas, like, we need to be fair to these developers about the time that they take to make these games and the potential issues that we all know will probably pop up.
Of course, I'd never want to see a game developer get dragged down, because at the end of the day, this is their job, this is how they feed their families, and the last thing you want to see is them lose their job. And that's why when people are basically saying some of the toxic things they do in their chats or even online, they are trying as hard as they can, but also at the same time they're limited by the person who really controls the purse strings.
That's a good point. That's a good point because, like you said, BioWare and an EA kind of big brother kind of situation there, where you can only do so much with the time you're given and the constraints you have to work under. And we actually, it's crazy because we didn't see this that much last year. We saw it here and there in the 360 era, PS3, but for whatever reason, the technology jump has made that a lot more common this generation, as far as like developers having issues, games coming out broken, like there's at least 2 to 3 games a year, AAA games that come out and are like broken, not broken, but just have these issues that will break the game or stop the game or stop you from enjoying it. So I think that that's something that I don't know if it's going to continue. I don't know if it's just because the hardware moves so fast and technology moves so fast, or because we really do demand too much. But it's definitely there's definitely an argument for both sides. I think you guys would agree as far as that point goes. But Fuzzy, I don't know if you were done, Centurion. I didn't want to cut you off if you have more of a point, man. Go ahead and elaborate on that if you wanted to.
Who, me or Fuzzy?
Oh, you. I mean, it's you, Centurion. I didn't want to cut you off, so I know you have. Yeah.
I apologize. I would agree that things are changing in the developer world. Nowadays, we'll take Bethesda, and now Activision is following suit. They're putting creator studios in their games, like Bethesda with the mods, letting people have access to their source software to create mods for the game. And now Activision is starting to try this for Overwatch. They're actually going to put this in their next update, where they're allowing the fans to go in and actually essentially play game developer. The only downside is that's almost a lazy move, because you're just going to let people who aren't being paid to develop mods for these games, and then you're probably going to find the ones that work and then put them into your game.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah,
that definitely makes sense for sure. So, Fuzz, I'm going to go ahead and throw that topic over to you, man. And once again, chat, all these questions are for you guys. So make sure you guys let us know in the chat what you guys think about, everything that we're discussing. Appreciate you guys so much. For Fuzz, I want to throw that same topic to you, man. What do you think about what's going on?
It's a tough thing, only because while I'm not a programmer, definitely not a dev in gaming, but I've had to do some minor stuff as far as for like a website for the company I work for. And from a consumer side, most of us don't ask too much of the developers. I mean, there are a lot of us that have probably an extreme list as far as things that they would like to see in a game that just aren't obtainable at this point in time, or with the resources that they're afforded from their publisher or from the parent company in general. But from a consumer point, yeah, we're always within, at least in our view, our eyes within reason for what we ask of the devs. Now, from someone that's just had to do coding for like a aftermarket auto accessory site, there are times where if you have more time or manpower, anything is possible. But it just comes down to like what Centurion was saying was whoever controls the purse strings is going to definitely make the call as far as how far or how much time you have before you either reach the deadline, or the site gets launched, or the program gets launched, and what updates or patches, or if there's any additional content that's tied to it. But in the grand scheme of things, I would say what we as gamers are asking from BioWare with Anthem, I don't think we're asking too much of the dev at this point. It's just I think that was just a bad setup in general, as far as like some of the after stories we've heard from, I guess it was Shriver or something,
Yeah,
uh, or one of the guys from Kotaku
Schreier,
that,
Jason Schreier.
yeah, that released the story as far as what was going on behind the scenes. But it just sucks. I mean, in the great scheme of things, I would say Anthem is a perfect example. Yeah, we talked about circling back to that game, but it's
Yeah,
like,
man. It's you know what the reason we do that though? I don't mean to cut you off. The reason we do that is because the game has so much fucking potential. We play it quite often. I play it quite often. I know you
mhm,
play it with me, Fuzzy Shonsu, mod of the year. We play it with him as well, and the game has so much potential, and it still does things. And as you know, it offers those moments that like no other game can offer you, as far as the travel, the flight, the combat when it happens. You know, the immersiveness, the actual like large aspect. Everything feels so big. You know, there's very few games that vertically offer you
yeah.
that kind of experience. But it just the basic thing, fucking just make it shit. Like it just break it. You know, and I'm gonna go on a tangent if I keep talking about that. But Fuzz, go ahead and finish, man. I know it was on you, but go ahead.
No, but like when it comes to the consumer or the gamers asking of devs, look at the division. The division kind of had a similar, stumbling step as far as from its launch. Me personally, I enjoyed it in 1.0 and 1.1, although the Dark Zone kind of took a turn in the opposite direction of what I wanted. But all the way up through 1.3 was still able to play it. It's just that it was a lot more difficult than it probably needed to be. And 1.4 was like a rebirth of the game, and it was, I would say, 90% of what the community was asking for. Now, there were a subset of those that wanted either even more hardcore version of the Dark Zone, but the DLC, what was that? The survival DLC kind of took that aspect of it as far as the survival and the winter clothing and stuff that you would need to be able to last throughout the entire thing. But if you look at Division 2, they've taken so much feedback from the community without, I guess, listening to every last voice and doing every last demand, but they kind of went with like what would satisfy the brunt of the community, and that's what the Division 2 was. And a lot of people will say that was probably one of the smoothest, MMO launches, in the history so far as right off the bat. I mean, yeah, there were some, that I guess launch day, there were some people that couldn't get on the server and stuff, but I think it's just the sheer numbers at that point. It sometimes isn't always on their end. It might be actually on some of the IP providers. But
Yeah.
yeah, that from a consumer standpoint, I don't think we ask too much, but we also have to have a dose of reality. We can't ask for 60 frames like what Centurion was saying earlier, and know that the hardware that we have now isn't as capable as, like, let's say a high end PC or what the next generation might be able to hold up to and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's 60 in
That's a
one
tough
hand, half a dozen in the other.
Yeah, it's a very very tough question because, like I said, and the reason it's so tough is both sides have a great argument, you know. And like Z Black Rider, he said he thinks games are too big. Mojo said Sea of Thieves was light on content but no bugs, and they have done a great job of updating it. But Division 2 got it right out the gate. So this is the thing. My biggest pet peeve is that we have all these examples. So it's not like and none of these games are really recreating anything. Like, they're not recreating the wheel. Like Division, Destiny, Anthem, they're not so far away from each other as far as the way they're played, what kind of games that they are. That they're doing the differences are minute. Like, as far as the way the game is playing and the characters and story, things like that. Like, those types of games aren't that different. So we have these examples of all these games coming out, having these terrible, terrible launches and lack of content, all these, issues. And so to me, it's like you haven't looked at that, or, maybe they have. I don't know, man. Like, it's almost unavoidable, it feels like. Like, there's
Yeah.
no way to avoid that out the gate. So,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I don't know. It's a very, 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 very tough argument, guys. So let's go ahead and move on to the next topic, man. That was our warm up, man. Always know what we like to do: jog it out a little bit, and we just keep going. So we're gonna go ahead and move on. And if you're new here, you guys know I do the poll of the week every single Monday. Follow us on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter as well. I put everything down in the description, so please go there and follow us. But I do a poll of the week; it's really fun, and then we answer the results here. We talk about the results here. So this week's poll of the week: was what price do you think the new consoles are going to be? So I said PS5, Anaconda, and this was an overwhelming vote. So thank you to everybody who voted on the poll. New and coming Monday, 499 was voted 85%. Yeah, 399 6%, and other 9%. So um, I think a lot of us are going to be in the same vein on this one, but let me go ahead and start with you, Centurion. What do you think as far as PlayStation 5, Anaconda? Now, give me what do you think the price is actually going to be versus what do you think it should be?
Well, I think it should be 500, but we all know the PS3 back in the day went for that 599 mark, and I really am kind of worried they're going to try to hit that mark again, especially with the higher end consoles, purely because there's a lot of tech going into these consoles, like SSD drives. Those things aren't cheap to begin with. And so I really do think I wouldn't be shocked if it was 599.
Okay. Okay. You want to elaborate on it? I mean, do you think? I mean, because I think honestly, do you think that's where you would like that's where you wanted it at, or because I
Oh,
mean, you seem very set on
no,
on that particular price, but that is that where you say, for instance, they handed you the keys. Was that where you would start at?
oh God, no. I would sell the console at cost. There's no, or even at a small loss, purely because the console is the gateway to the family of consoles, or basically getting people to buy software. And that's where I would either sell it at cost or at a loss if I could. Being Microsoft has a lot of money, they could afford to take a loss on the console. But we all could see with the Xbox, all digital edition, I will say I was a little shocked at it being 249 right out the gate. I understand that MSRP is inflated to allow retailers to sell it below MSRP, but I with what I saw with the Xbox All Digital Edition, I wouldn't be shocked at this point if they went for a 599 price point, but I really do think it needs to be $500 or less.
Okay. No, that's fair. And a lot of people are in the same vein. That directly reflects the poll. Everybody thinks 499 is that sweet spot, but as technology moves, once again, and we've seen, the list of some of the things that PlayStation 5 console is going to be able to do. Now, the one difference is that the one I think benefit that Xbox has is that they can release the different SKUs. I don't know if Sony's doing that out the gate. Traditionally, Sony doesn't do different SKUs right out the gate. Matter of fact, Xbox usually doesn't either. The different SKUs don't come or different versions don't come till a little later. But this is going to be interesting if they right out the gate you get 2 to 3 different options in the Xboxes, and then versus one for Sony. That could actually be viewed as a bad thing. I mean, if it just depends on how you spin it, depending on your point of view. But I think it's very very flexible for Xbox. With Sony, it kind of puts a little pressure because your console has to do everything. That one box where Xbox can kind of, I want to say shortchange, but they can kind of offer different things and different reasons to buy the different SKUs. So I guess I would agree with that as well. But Fuzz, let's go ahead and dive over to you. We've been talking about this for forever. I mean, the last probably 8 to 10 months
Yeah.
here on the Shop Podcast. But what would you agree? I think you were on the same vein too, 499. But
Yeah.
what do you think versus what it should be versus what you saw?
I have that same fear as Centurion as far as the 599. Like, and it's funny. I was a PlayStation guy as far as PS3 from launch, and they were like, "Oh, it's ridiculously expensive," and it was. I mean, I came from PC, and I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna leave PC to go into consoles," and went with that, and it wasn't that bad of a deal, and wound up actually buying two because I couldn't find a Wii at that time because I was going to buy one for my niece
Uh,
and her kids, but my niece is only like a few years younger than
yeah,
me. But it was around Christmas time, and I was like, okay, it's within reason after spending almost that kind of money on video cards for my PC at that point, and I don't want to see that again,
yeah,
especially considering how the price point for the actual games themselves have kind of stayed at that $60 mark.
yeah,
Sure, there's the season pass. Sure, there's the extra content or the deluxe or the ultimate edition or the complete edition that's the $100 mark. But the basic game in many cases is still $60, and it's been that way. It seems like for 10 years or more.
yeah.
Um, it, as far as the Anaconda, I think if Xbox does anything beyond 500. I accidentally was going to type in 550 when I did my response to the poll of the week, but I think anything over the 500 mark is a mistake as far as if they want to gain any users in their ecosystem.
Yeah.
So 500 needs to be the top point, even if they have the low entry point of 300 or 350 for the Lockhart edition. They really need to top it or keep it below that 500 mark, just so they can not have almost the same backlash as they did at the beginning of this generation. So
Yeah, it's a chess match. It's definitely a chess match, and that's why what Sony did as far as releasing the information about the PS5 was a little weird. It was not weird, but it was a little random because that changes a lot of things. I mean, what's the next move Xbox makes as far as what should we just dump? Should we just blow our load and let everything out at E3? Even though we don't know if Sony's actually going to have a PSX or event in the fall or around Christmas time like they traditionally do. So it's very, 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 and it changes the whole landscape of E3 and what we plan on seeing at E3, and I'm very, very excited about it. So, honestly, for me, I think 500, they've kind of weaned us on 500 with the Xbox One X. A lot of the fan base, as far as Xbox fans, I think would be okay with that. Now, the tech, so you got to be realistic, Fuzz. The technology jump, though.
yeah,
The hardware jump, the performance jump. I mean, what is projected and based on what we're seeing that PlayStation 5 now, I assume those are hard facts because it came from an actual Sony rep. But if we see anything along that line or better, I can't see how they can do 500. Like I don't
yeah,
realistically. I mean, they could, but I mean, I mean, financially, they probably could get away with it. They did it with the original OG Xbox. They lost a ton of money on the
yeah.
OG Xbox as far as hardware. They took a big hit because the technology was so ahead of its time. They took a major hit as far as R&D versus what they got back, for purchasing. But do you think that that's even feasible?
I think it's feasible, and the only reason why, like we kind of have this idea now that they're doing SSDs. They're going to be buying them in masses. I mean, that's not going to reduce that price all that much, but I guess the key thing is going to be, is it 1 terabyte or if it's two? If it's two, yeah, there's no way. I think it's 500. But if they stick within the 1 terabyte range and the amount that they probably expect to sell within the first year, and the fact that pricing is going to start coming down on those in general, um, and the fact that probably a lot of their research as far as what they're going to do as far as the graphic card or the chipset and everything, they kind of learned that from the Xbox One X. So it's the CPU seems to be the big thing that's going to be the biggest, I guess, breakthrough for them. And I'm pretty sure they've looked at some of those things while they were making the X, and it just wasn't within the price point that they wanted. So it's,
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I know technology gets cheaper as time goes on, and this thing is not going to hit the shelves, I don't think, until this time or holiday of next year type of thing. But yeah, it's a tough one. I'm keeping my fingers crossed for the $500 price point because I got to buy two of those things.
Oh, so that was a personal choice.
Yeah. But
Okay.
yeah, if they do 600, I don't know, because yeah, that's going to make it tough for the holidays and
Yeah.
kids going back to school and yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, that's true. And then the crazy thing is, I want to run this by you, Centurion, before we move on to the next topic, bro. So we know that the Xbox One X is still a capable console. We know it's a very capable machine. So with the Lockhart, with the discless Xbox One S or Xbox One, whatever you want to call it, what does that mean as far as the price point? Because we're sitting here talking price, but that One X is still going to be a viable console when this new system drops. So what does that mean as far as price point? You know what I'm saying? Like, does that mean 500 is the base? Like, you think that how does that affect what Xbox is doing? Because they still have a relevant console.
Oh my gosh, that is a tough question. Because I will say, because the X is going to still be a relevant console, if they hit that $600 price point, it is definitely going to make a lot of people hold on to their wallets and at least wait for it to go on sale or to lower in price in general.
Mm-hmm.
because I actually own two X's and I enjoy both of them. And I do want to upgrade to the new console for sure, but that $600 price point would make me hold on to my money at least until it went on sale. I wouldn't be standing in line for it day and date.
Okay, that's a very conservative answer. I assume that, though, to be honest with you, because I definitely would. That's tough. That's a lot to process right there. So we'll probably talk about that off. We'll dive into that a little later. I may even make an individual video on that because that's something I haven't heard talked about. And I think it's definitely going to affect pricing, especially when you have. It's not like a Wii U situation where nobody gives a fuck about the Wii U. Everybody was ready for the Switch.
Oh
Yeah.
God, yeah.
The X is a relevant console, and it's still going to be relevant. It's still going to be front and center in a lot of people's homes. So it's I don't know. It's just very. We'll dive into that probably a little bit later. But let's go ahead and move on to the next topic. Thanks everybody watching. Appreciate you guys. Hopefully everybody is enjoying the show. We love doing this every Saturday, guys. Man, show us some love. Smack that like button. We got 13 people in here, man. We should have 13 likes. Appreciate all the love and support, man. Love you guys so much, man. But we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next topic. Let's go ahead and dive into that, man. So we're gonna be talking Nintendo. You guys know I'm kind of touch and go with Nintendo a little bit. I don't always talk about them, but we do have a lot of fun when we do talk about them. So let's dive into this particular topic. So Nintendo did come out and release a I guess a statement, maybe even a tweet. I think it was a statement that they're not going to be revealing a new Switch at E3. Okay, so this is kind of I mean, they're not. We knew that they weren't going to be there. I think that I knew that they weren't going to be there. At least Nintendo generally is never at E3. They haven't been. They usually do their own show. So I don't think that is a huge reveal, so to speak. But what do you guys think it does for Nintendo? Is that very predictable for Nintendo? Do you guys think that maybe they should have come out and just shown at least a different SKU at E3 so people can get their hands on it? So we're gonna start with you, Centurion. What do you think?
Well, I did a little bit of reading last night when you sent me the topic, and if we go off of what they did with the Wii U, that was a total bomb at E3. So that made them dial it back a little bit when they revealed the Switch. They didn't even really reveal the Switch at E3. They revealed it on their website. And that's where I'm kind of wondering if they're going to, when they come out with the next version of the Switch, whether it's the cheaper one or the more expensive one that has a better graphics card in it, I'm almost inclined to say they're going to reveal it on their website because, history does tend to repeat itself.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, you know what? The thing about Nintendo is that they're the only one out of the three that could do that and be okay and completely get away with it and it not be like something that gets talked about or anything. But I respect Nintendo and what they do. They have their own lane. They stick to that, and I think it doesn't matter as far as a Nintendo fan goes. If you're a Nintendo fan, you're gonna buy it. I think it has enough. It's sold at like 35 million consoles already. Something crazy over 30. It's insane. I think it's selling even faster than the PS4 did.
Yeah,
I think I'm pretty sure it is.
Or most amount of sales within the shortest period of time, or something.
Yeah, it's crazy, insane. It's doing like prime PS2 numbers, man, crazy numbers. But I think there's enough people that want the console and will upgrade, especially if it gives you a nice little performance boost. So we'll see. Because I still look at the Switch as kind of a weird. I don't know. I still have reservations about it, but I seen my son actually has a friend who always brings it to church, and I sit there and watch them play back and forth, and it actually looks pretty damn cool. And I'm like, man, that actually looks pretty fun. So that may change here very soon for me. But Fuzz, I wanted to get your opinion, man. What do you think about them not having a new version of the Switch at E3? Do you think it's going to be a reveal like they normally do it on a direct, or do you think they're just going to do it on the website?
Direct or website? I'm thinking they're going more for the holiday season buzz. They're going to unveil or do like an official launch of their, Switch Mini and I guess the Switch Pro, or at least I know that they made more of a solid mention of the Mini. I'm not sure as far as the Pro, but in any event, I know that if they, wait until probably closer to October, that's just going to create that much more buzz for the holidays, for when sales might start to wane off for the regular Switch. And not that they're going to wane off to the point where it's like, oh, it's time for a new console. It's just a matter of, I guess, the time of year. But they're going to create so much of a buzz where people are going to be clamoring either for the standard Switch, the Mini, or the Pro. So they're good at generating that buzz on their own without having to do anything at E3, and they seem to learn how to time it perfect, just in time for that time of year. So I think they'll be fine.
Okay. So I think we're all in agreement. I think Nintendo is going to be okay. I don't ever worry too much. I still have my reservations about Nintendo, man. They've kicked me in the nuts too many times this generation. As well as I just think that they don't get held to the same standard, but they get the same love, but they don't get held to the same standard as the other two. But that's a whole nother conversation we can have a little bit later on. So we're gonna go ahead and jump over to the next topic. Once again, thank you for everybody watching live. Appreciate the love, support, loving you guys, man. Thank you for the kind words in the chat. Everybody just having fun here. So we're gonna go ahead and move on. So this is actually a really, really cool one. And we were just talking about Sony a little while ago. This is a great segue. So, and I left this for last on purpose because I know the chat's gonna go crazy. I know we're gonna have a whole lot to say about this. So, a Sony rep recently came out and stated that the PS5 is not going to be released within the next year. So, essentially, we're not getting it this year at all, and we probably may or may not get it early next year. So, because I mean, we're in, I mean, I guess essentially it's still early next year, but that may or may not happen. So the chances of it happening, I think, are a little smaller now at this point, but potentially it can still come out in May, something like that, maybe in April. So I want you guys' opinion on that, knowing that we're not getting it this year, knowing that we may not even get it early next year. So we're gonna start with you again, Centurion. Is this something that kind of, in them coming out kind of saying that, you heard it from a rep, was that surprising? I think a lot of us were kind of in the there space anyway, although there were a lot of people that were thinking with them being so quiet that there was going to be some big blowout at the end of the year. What do you think? What was your opinion on that?
I was expecting fall of 2020 just because it seems to be a quite common time that they like to release them. I don't know. It would be interesting if they tried to release it earlier in the year, because you wouldn't have that holiday buzz to drive sales. So for me, it actually wasn't really shocking that that came out. I'm more along the lines concerned, or not even concerned. I'm wondering, they're definitely going to hold off to see what Microsoft does. So I'm pretty sure that's why they haven't really set an exact date on it, because they do like to sit back and watch what Microsoft is going to do with the Xbox. They're not going to just put themselves out there for Xbox to be able to one up them.
Well, then that kind of contradicts why release the specs then? Why release? Well, we don't know. Well, so those are the specs, right? Are we in agreement that was an official? Those are the specs. That's what's going to be in the box. That's what's going to be in the PS5. We all agree on that?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Okay, so if we all agree on that, that contradicts what you just said, because why release exact specs of your console at this particular point?
That was a little shocking for them, considering when the Xbox revealed itself and PlayStation went back and changed a few things about the PS4, because the consoles were actually quite similar when you look at what the concepts were for both the Xbox One, or the original one, and the original PS4. Both actually contained a camera, and as soon as PS4 saw that Xbox was just getting plastered to the wall for having a camera on their console, they pretty much reached in the box and sat it to the side and tried to act like it wasn't even in there. So that's where.
Funny thing is, fun fact, they started the show late. About 10 minutes late. I don't know why they started the show late, but there's a little thing out there about that whole thing. But either way, 10-4, I'm taking it off right now. Go ahead.
No,
finish.
I'm just they did release the specs, yes, but they didn't release the full specs. And like the guy who did release the specs also has a weird form of math that he uses to prove that the PlayStation 4 Pro has, I believe it was like 8 terabytes of memory to it for graphics. And I think it was called compacted math. I'm not a math whiz or anything like that, but even people had a little bit of a thing about how he was using this compacted math to try to build up the PS4 Pro. So at the same time, the person who did release the specs has a way of manipulating the information to make it sound bigger than what it really is.
Okay. See, I'm not a software guy. I mean, I'm not a software, but I'm not like a tech guy as far as like the individual, points and individual statistics and things like that of these consoles. I mean, I know in general what they're talking about. I can paint a picture, but I can't break down a specific spec, so I wouldn't even know as far as that particular point. But all I know is that, back to your point, them putting out the specs at this particular point, this early, without knowing anything that Microsoft is doing or anything that Microsoft is going to show, besides a statement from Phil basically saying we're not going to be holding anything back at this show. Besides not knowing any of that, it's not like Phil's on the phone or on IG or something with Yoshida. Then they going back and forth saying, "Hey, man, we doing this and doing that." That's not happening. So I'm just I understand where you're coming from, and I think that's a great point. But it kind of piques my interest as to why they would do that now. Maybe it was a let's just get some information out because we haven't said shit in a long time. I don't know.
I think they're trying to push Xbox to reveal something so that way they can at least make the next step on how they're going to build their console.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could be. I mean, especially based on in the chat. Once again, you guys are far more technically informed than I am. Chat. There are a lot of them saying that AMD, those chips aren't going to be ready. They're both consoles are using AMD CPUs. They're saying that those chips aren't going to be ready till later next year anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't know if maybe that's a white flag on that whole topic, but I think it's still interesting at the end of the day, though. But either way, Fuzz, what do you think, man? What's your opinion? I know we've been talking about this, and it's been a big topic ever since last E3. What's Sony gonna do? A lot of it amplified only because Sony has not done a damn thing. They've been extremely quiet, extremely guarded about what they're doing, about what they're going on, and then the whole curveball with them not going to the next E3 threw everybody way the fuck off. So, what do you think about the information about from that Sony exec saying, "Hey, not the next year or so, it's not ready yet"?
Well, I think it's to kind of woe the horses after doing the spec unveil, which they didn't reveal exactly how much memory or how many teraflops it's going to be and stuff. But I think it was either Jez Corden or somebody else for one of the other like web news sites were saying the main reason why they came out with those is because the dev kits were going to be in a lot of the company's hand or a lot of developers' hands. So they figured the information is going to leak one way or another. So why not beat them to the punch type of thing?
Mm-hmm.
So I think their hand was kind of forced to at least give something to the public before someone else does. But yeah, they're both them and Microsoft are playing chess or checkers or something, just waiting for the first one to, write something in stone and be like, all right, let's go back to the room and let's, add this much more memory or let's change the, Plan B chipset because it's going to have, more teraflops. So, or just, clock it at a higher clock speed. So they're waiting for, the other one to make the first move to get something written in stone, place the order with AMD, and then be like, can you up ours a bit, and go from there. But them saying that it's not going to be until, or at least for 12 months, I kind of think in a weird way they may still do something before fall of 2020, because if they're going to say it now, 12 months from now, we could see, PS5 or at least the pre-orders. Because you know how like places like GameStop will be like, oh, coming in May or coming in July, and you'll be able to order it come, March 31st or April 15th or something. So it doesn't really surprise me as far as the we won't see it for a while, although it would have been nice to see it, this holiday. But I don't think any of that tech that either them or Microsoft want to put in their next box is 100% assembly line ready to go and tested and vetted. And I'm pretty sure a lot of these developers are somewhere at the halfway point on developing games specifically for it. So it's going to be at least a year or so, other than the in-house stuff and some of the ones that are developing a game that can scale to whatever the next gen is believed to be, because they probably got like a heads up. So whatever Battlefield or Call of Duty will launch on the next consoles, I'm pretty sure they're making those games scalable for that next gen. But it's it's interesting, but yeah, I not too surprised at this point.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and read a couple well-informed gamers here in the chat. Man, I got the best chat, man. I appreciate you guys so much. But Infurious one, he said Sony claims they release info because dev kits are out, leaks will come,
Oh
so they're
yeah.
getting ahead of the horse. So that's what you just talked about. I think Centurion mentioned that as well. Mojo said both of same CPU, GP, but clock speed, RAM, and data pipe will be the difference. Once again, I am not that techie, so I have no idea what you're talking about. So no, but
Mhm.
I guess good point, Mojo. Z Black said it needs 6 months for production, which definitely makes sense. You got to factor that in as well. He said cost of built-in backwards compatibility and VR features will force Sony to reduce power, RAM, and bandwidth. That could be a thing that drives costs as well. So you never know. But great points from the chat. So I guess my
Yeah.
opinion on that whole thing is, I think it's very, very interesting as to see how Sony is moving these last probably 12 to 18 months. They're very, very quiet, very methodical. A lot of the news is just like, it's generally geared towards the successes of the PS4. 90 million. They do every 6 months, it goes up a few million. They put out a tweet saying 90 million, and they 92.6 million, and then 98.2 million. So they keep doing that. Obviously, the strength of the games and the games that they have coming out. Now, honestly, they've been dangling those few games on the carrot. The Death Strandings, Ghost of Tsushima, The Last of Us 2. That's been the dangle, the carrot dangle, because you got to have something to drive this consumer basis that has these PS4s to make that purchase on a PS5 potentially. So you got to dangle some games out there, keep people waiting. Smart move. Sony can definitely get away with it. Not a bad move on their part. But it's very, very interesting to see. I think that makes sense as far as the timeline. Obviously, based on the things that are supposed to be in this actual console, what it's supposed to be capable of. So next, fall is not that bad of a deal. And like you said, Centurion, I want to drive home that point that Christmas, holiday, that's people still spend the most money at that point of the year by far than any point in the year. So that's a big deal as well on the marketing side of things, financial side of things. So very, very interesting what they're doing. And I think it's going to directly reflect what Xbox is doing. Once again, Nintendo is going to do what the fuck it wants to do. It kind of does its own thing, has its own lane there. So what we're going to do next, guys, we're going to open up questions here. We got about 15 minutes left on the podcast, guys. Throw your questions right now in the chat. Any question you like, maybe I didn't get to it. Maybe something else happened at E3. Let us know right now in the chat. This is like my most fun time of the show because you guys directly influence what's going on here on the show, and that's what I love. But either way, once again, subscribe, hit the like button as you file, and appreciate the love and support. So Shonsu, man, mod of the year, he said, should Sony resurrect the PSP to give Nintendo a little competition in the handheld market? You want to take a stab at that one, Centurion?
Wow, that would be a definitely big competition considering how quickly the Switch is selling. Forgive me, I never owned a PSP. I enjoy coming home and actually playing on my 4K television. But yeah, I would have to say right now they've probably got more of their effort into the PS5. Should they resurrect it? Possibly, considering the way Xbox is wanting to go with the xCloud service. They're wanting to put games in more people's hands, especially, on smaller devices like tablets and phones. So yeah, I would say it would be relevant to what's going on with the market right now for sure.
Yeah, okay. Good point. Good point. You want to tackle that one too, Fuzz? You want to stab?
Yeah, I'm actually surprised after the first year of the Switch that they didn't, direct some of their efforts instead of making like a second PS4 Slim, putting it towards that. Although they kind of have like a temporary fix, and if I'm not mistaken, I think it's iOS now, and they'll be coming to Android later, where you can stream your PS4 games to your iPhone. Now, the catch to this, and I think it's the same problem that I ran into when I had the PS TV thing, or whatever they call it, Sony
You?
TV or PlayStation TV. Uh, you have to have the PlayStation 4 on. Now, I might be wrong on this, but I think you have to have the PlayStation 4 on and be on the same Wi-Fi signal. So it's like you're in the house on your Wi-Fi on your cell phone, another family member is watching TV, you can't game on that particular TV where the PlayStation's hooked up, but you could still run it and then just stream the game through your phone. Um, I guess that's their workaround instead of however much development cost it would be to make another portable. But
Mhm.
yeah, after the first year of sales on that Switch, I'm real surprised they weren't like, let's try to reclaim this portable market. I mean, they've never really been as competitive with the Nintendo DS, which it amazes me how well and why those things sell.
Oh, that's crazy. They
But
sell like fucking hotcakes, man.
yeah, I Sony having a small form factor of their own games that you could take with you that's maybe twice the size of a cell phone. Yeah, that's they've been doing that well for years, and I'm just surprised. I think the only thing that's been hindering them in the past was their OS or their operating system as far as how clunky it was on the I believe
PS
it was the Vita, I
the
think it
Vita,
was.
yeah,
But
the Vita.
yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
PSP was
surprised.
phenomenal. My wife had one. I bought her one. She was like, "Babe, I need a PSP," so I bought her one. But we never got a Vita or anything. But she loved the PSP, so I actually really enjoyed it too. It was a great fucking piece of tech, man, for sure. Very very underrated. But either way, so we can go ahead and take another question. So shout out to Infurious One, man. First time I ever seen you in the chat. If I missed you before, I do apologize, but appreciate you showing up, buddy. He said if the PS5 is stronger than the Xbox, will power matter then? So that's a kind of a fun topic too. We always go back and forth about this, in the game, in the Twitter streets. We always go back and forth about this, but I think it's a very, very, very relevant question, because it is definitely something that we do cover quite a bit here. So I'm gonna start with you, Centurion. Um, do you think that is going to flip flop? Do you think that that's going to change potentially as far as the whole power and how it played out this generation as opposed to the next generation?
I'm pretty sure if it came out right now that PS5 was going to be stronger than anything Xbox could produce, there would be people just totally beating that drum of haha, PlayStation wins again. But when Xbox tries to come out and say they're building a more superior console, everybody gets out their microscopes and starts wanting to like really take a look at it. And is it truly that powerful? I remember Grassgate with the Grand Theft Auto thing where people were counting blades of grass. And, when we were comparing 900p to 1080p, apparently, like even the guy at PlayStation came out and said, 1080p makes you a better gamer. Yeah, so I just don't like the double standard on if PlayStation comes out and says we're the more superior console, everybody accepts that and cheers. When Xbox says that, everybody just, it leaves a bad taste in their mouth when Xbox does that.
Yeah, there's a definite difference in the community. Once again, I'm not gonna get too far into the weeds of this one because this show can go for another half an hour if we get too far. But on this particular topic, for sure. But I think it's very very interesting because we always like to use that as ammunition. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, these Twitter streets like to use it as ammunition. But it's very very interesting to see like literally there is a difference when things like that happen. There's a definitive difference in the way it's viewed, in the way it's reported, in the way that it's viewed by the media and it's put out to the consumer. And we don't like to talk about it a lot, but it's very very obvious and blatant. Like they don't even hide the shit anymore. Like it's not even a, oh well, you can suspect. No, it's a definitive. Like I don't mean to say names, but Greg Miller in his Sony pajamas, hugging his Sony console, going to sleep with his Sony pillow.
Yeah.
Like I don't. That's not, you at that point you're not even trying to hide it anymore. It's obvious. So, but once again, I'm not gonna go too far on that. But Fuzzy, what do you think about the whole power situation? I mean, Xbox did come out and say we're not falling behind anymore, definitively, and they haven't. So look what they were able to do with the Xbox One X, and they had to hit the e-brake halfway through the generation. And they did that on a very, very short development time, I assume, because they didn't anticipate what happened in 2013 to actually happen. But I don't think that there's no way they could have had it already in development, knowing that the shit was going to flop.
No.
Do you? I mean, I don't think that that's a thing. But either way, what do you think about the power difference and the narrative essentially?
I think if the PS5 winds up being more powerful than the Lockhart, yeah, it's still going to be trumpeted as a victory on the PS side. If it's more powerful than the Anaconda, oh yeah, it will be every news site, and there'll be quotes of Phil about we won't lose that power, advantage again, and that'll be like the replay button, just like when they did for the Xbox One launch, where it was like TV, Xbox off, or whatever you want to
Yeah,
call it.
yeah,
But yeah, for the most part, it'll definitely matter, and it will affect some people's purchasing history. Like I'll be honest, the beginning of this generation, I was primarily PS4. Eventually came over to Xbox because of Drive Club and other issues with PlayStation in general, being a racing car or a racing fan. But yeah, I purchased until the Xbox One X came out. Some of my single player type games, like so for example, Just Cause 3, I bought on the
hmm
PS4 instead of on Xbox One. But I bought Division 1 on Xbox One as opposed to PlayStation, primarily because of the community. It was so
hmm
much easier playing a multiplayer game or always online game within the Xbox community and have a constant group of people that you can game with on a random basis or regular basis and still find good members out there. When I was on PlayStation, it was like, okay, outside of my coworkers for Destiny, eh, no one had mics. It's like, okay, you join up with them. It's like everybody's running to the objective, which, some people even do in other games, but it
yeah,
was like no communication, just run, run, run. If they're down, just forget about them. It's like, I hated it. Well, then again, I blame part of vanilla Destiny because I didn't stay for Taken King or any of that stuff. But yeah, power will matter. If Xbox winds up being more powerful, people will try to underplay it, or they'll be like, "Aha! Look at the lock card. It can't do what the X1X can do, or what the PS Pro, or they'll come up with something like, oh well, across the board, all the games are only going to be at 1080. So what does that extra power matter? It's like having a Ferrari on the highway. You
well,
can only do
it's
55.
it's
So
it's definitely gonna the Lockhart's. I assume it's definitely gonna be at least maybe slightly below the Xbox One X, maybe on par with the Xbox One X at the very least.
yeah, I think it'll
At least
definitely be
on
on
par with the
par.
One X.
I think it might be one of those where it's a guaranteed 1080 60 box type of thing, or like maybe a 1440 60 on some stuff without the textures. So I think the difference will be you'll be able to do like native 4K on the X1X, but only 30 frames. But you'll do like probably checkerboard rendering or whatever they want to call the scaling on 4K. It'll output to 4K, but it won't be native, and
Yeah,
it'll probably be able to do that same game at 60. So you may not get all the bells and whistles as far as textures and stuff, but you'll definitely see some improvements. But the
yeah,
the Anaconda is just going to be pretty much what we dreamed the X1X was of today, as far as
yeah,
its native 4K and 60. I
yeah,
have a feeling that that's what that one's going to be, and the PS5 will probably not be that far behind. It'll just be a
yeah.
matter of maybe the textures won't be as like Centurion was saying with Grand Theft Auto. It'd be like, oh, there's not as much pieces of or blades of grass on the screen and stuff. But yeah, it's going to matter either way. Whoever edges the other one out.
Nice, nice. So we're gonna go ahead and take one more question, and it's a good one. So shout out to Infurium, Furious One once again. Appreciate you showing up and hanging out with us this evening or this afternoon. So he has a great question. So he says, "Who is going to release their console first?" Very, very, very question. Very, very, very great question. I mean, so I'm gonna start with you, Centurion. Who do you think is going to release their console first, versus who do you think needs to actually release their console first?
Wow, that's a good question because I was even thinking out of everything going on right now, which one of these guys is going to get the courage to release their price
Exactly.
point
I didn't
first?
either. I didn't either. Yeah.
But if you want to know who I think needs to come out first, it definitely needs to be Xbox because of just how much they have taken from the community this generation. So I really do think that they're aiming to hit one out of the park. So I believe Xbox should want to release first. Now, I actually also believe that Xbox will release first just because, again, I feel like they might be a little bit more further ahead on the development of their console than the PS5 because we all remember when the Xbox One X came out, Phil Spencer also said, we're already building the next generation. Here's the Xbox One X, and now we're going to go on to building the next generation. So I actually think they're further ahead than Sony is when it comes to the design. and they probably are just sitting back and waiting for their chipsets to be finished being designed and put into production so they can get this console on the market.
Okay. So obviously, this doubles back to what we just talked about as far as price points, some other things about the PlayStation and the Xbox, about Sony, just coming out saying, "Hey, 12 months very least." So at that, if to that particular point, what do you think? Um, when they do come out, what do you think that the narrative needs to be? So I know you said Xbox is coming out first, and you believe that they should come out first. What do you think? So I guess you could say, what is the narrative behind that as far as on the Xbox side? Like, is it just because we've been behind this entire generation and we need to get out the gate quickly and establish? Because that's what they did with the 360. The PS3 came out later than the 360, so they were able to get that horse in the race first, and it worked out for them in the long run. Although PlayStation 3 did eventually kind of gain ground towards the later half of the generation, they still had this gigantic lead to begin with. Are you thinking they try to catch lightning in a bottle twice, maybe?
Oh, definitely.
Okay. All right. That's a definitive answer if I ever heard one. So, Fuzz, what do you think, man? What do you think, once again, who's going to come out first, but who do you think also, or as well, who should come out first?
I'm gonna take a wild stab at it. I think PlayStation is going to come out first. Traditionally, or in history, normally the one that's kind of losing the current generation is the first to market on the next generation, and a lot of times that kind of helps them at least get a better footing because they lick their wounds, they've learned from the previous battle, and they come out swinging, and that first punch is a doozy type of thing. So I think PlayStation, even though they're winning this one as far as sales and whatnot and mind share in the media and stuff, I think they're banking on releasing their console, probably at least the pre-orders, around May of next year, or I want to say April, at least in the U.S. market. They might release in other markets a little bit later. They might just do it as like kind of like a I forget what you would call it, but like a in the series type of thing where, all right, North America, South America, and possibly Japan itself, they'll have it, in April and May, and then June, July will probably be like Europe and the rest of Asia and things like that, and go that route. But I think they want to, not that they're concerned or scared, but I think they know Microsoft is on the attack, and their better way of beating them is beating them at their own game. Just looking at how they did with the PS4 versus like the PS3 and so forth. They might want to take the earlier route because I think, didn't the PS4 come out like a week or two earlier this previous gen as well?
I don't remember. I don't
Because
remember, to be honest with you.
I could have sworn I remember having my PS4 before you could pick up an Xbox One, but that might just be my bad memory. But I could see them trying to beat Microsoft at their own game of trying to be early, launch it a little bit early, have it where it's ready in their primary markets like North America, and then have it in their home territory first as well, just so that way Xbox doesn't even get the jump in their own backyard type of thing. Um, but I think Xbox should release first, just because like everything that you guys have already mentioned, they need to take a better step this time in comparison to what they did with the launch of the Xbox One. Get it in the hands early, just like what they did with the 360. Yeah, they can't do the full year or almost a full year advance type of thing, but yeah, I think Xbox should release first, but I think Sony, with them being quiet, they're more capable to pivot. Even though, like you said, the Xbox One X has probably been in or in development longer. I think Sony is fine with that, knowing that they might have a disadvantage anyway, and just go with it because that'll give them plenty of time to kind of fix things by the time there's time for a mid-gen refresh. So that gives them like a 2 year
Okay.
window to come out with a PS5 Pro or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. I guess I'm gonna wrap this up with my opinion on what we've been talking about essentially. So honestly, who I think should come out first versus who I think will actually come out first. Now, this is kind of tough, and the big difference for me is that the fact that Sony said they're not going to be at E3. that was the biggest difference as far as this overall decision for me is, and I think that's the reason I think that the Xbox is going to come out first because I think Sony is just taking a little bit more time with what they're doing. I think they're being a little bit more deliberate with what they're doing. Xbox, and this is funny because I tie this back to the progress Xbox has made as far as picking up these studios, getting studios, and I said this was the key. They're getting active studios that are already working on projects because they have the confidence in the hardware that they have coming out that these things are going to be able to translate well and it's going to work. So they're buying studios that are actually have projects, have ideas, and maybe even started the ball rolling or it's just in its infancy of what they started doing. And they're building these things in house with the new hardware. So to me, it makes sense. And I think they're a little bit further along because I think once Phil in 2014 said, "Oh hell no, we're not getting our ass kicked like this anymore," I think at that point he was committed. He knew that X was something that they're going to be worked on, but we're already looking forward because we know we're going to have to make that leap. If I say this, I'm going to have to back it up. So I think that that's the reason why they're going to come out first. Now, do they need to come out first? And that's more subjective. I don't feel like they need to come out first. Essentially, I mean, I will it hurt them if they don't come out first? It will give Sony opportunity to set the kind of standard, and that could be I don't know. Maybe that's what you're alluding to, Centurion, as far as set the narrative, the generation. Is that kind of why you figured Xbox should come out first? Was that part of your decision? I assume.
Oh yeah, definitely. They are trying to set the narrative for the next generation. They're going to have multiple SKUs. They're going to have multiple price points. They're aiming for every gamer they could get.
Okay, makes sense. Makes sense. So I think that's gonna go ahead and wrap up the show, man. We ran a little bit late, but you know what? We have a damn good time, and time goes by really fast. That hour goes by extremely fast. So once again, I'm gonna go ahead and let everybody here, my panel. Once again, shout out to my two panel members who are not here. My boy Zalker87. Go subscribe to Zalker's channel, man. If you're missing out, if you're not subscribed to him, please go do it. Shout out to my boy Jarhead. I know you in the chat watching. I'm gonna be online playing tonight, so have your ass on that party chat, boy. So appreciate you though, man. So we're gonna go ahead and let you, Centurion. They'll go ahead and give your goodbyes essentially. Let everybody know where they can find you though, because it's very, very crucial. Guys, I already put his channel link in the description. If you guys are following me or subscribe to me, let's go ahead and pack out his channel, man. Go subscribe like crazy to his channel. It is right in the description, very easy to find. Go follow him. He does a great thing for the community, very knowledgeable. But go ahead. I know you can speak for yourself. I know. But go ahead and get your, I guess, goodbyes and everything. Let everybody know where they can find you, Centurion.
Well, I really am thankful and appreciative you had me here to get my voice out and give me a chance. This was my first ever podcast. I can be found on Twitter at Centurion1307. I can be found on YouTube at Legion of Gamer. It is 3 words. And just in case anybody does have problems finding me, all my social media links are on legionofgamer.com, where I post a good amount of my material that I create there, on top of having some opinions and other stuff on there that kind of let people kind of see what I am feeling out in the gaming world. But I really, again, thank you for having me here.
No problem, man. Once again, guys, he is new part of the family, man. Well, he may see him on here as often, or maybe not. So we'll see. We'll see. You never know what's going to happen in the background. But great guy. Appreciate you for coming on, man. Once again, his channel link is in the description. Please go check out his content. Go follow him on Twitter as well. Great gamer, very knowledgeable, quality content, man. Puts a lot of time in his videos and his content. Do me a favor, go check him out. We're going to go ahead and bounce right over to Fuzzy. Man, do we need to even say anything at this point about you, Fuzzy? We already know what's going on. I think everybody in chat knows what's going on with Fuzzy, but go ahead and let everybody know just in case they don't, Fuzz.
Hey, you can find me on Twitter at fuzzy_Belvedere, same as my PSN, fuzzy_Belvedere, or you can find me on Xbox Live, fuzzy_Belvedere. More than likely playing either Forza or Division or Anthem as a more recent, although probably going to change it up a bit because I need to eventually get into Metro. But great show, great guests, excellent topics. This was fun. Great time.
And we love to do it big. So Fuzz, man, once again, thank you for being consistent every Saturday. Shout out to my other 2 compadres, my 2 brothers, Soccer and Jarhead, appreciate you guys. Love you as well, man. So it's your boy PTK Blam, the host with the most, guys. Subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 2K subscribers. All my information is down in the description as well. I appreciate all the love and support. I've gained a lot of not necessarily subscribers, but you guys as well. But a lot of followers on Twitter lately. I appreciate you guys. If you're not subscribed here and you are following me on Twitter, let's go ahead and bounce back and forth here. We can both hit the follow button and the subscribe button. So, but I appreciate you guys nonetheless. Once again, more content coming. I will make sure I do a weekly video next week, guys. I've been busy with this new schedule, so appreciate you guys' patience. Thank you guys so much. And we're out of here. Once again, we're going to do this next Saturday, same time, same place. Bring a friend. Peace out, everybody. Have a great weekend.